Sometimes the thing about the playoffs is it's not necessarily the team that you want to win, but the team that you want to lose. Welcome to the Haters Guide to the NHL playoffs.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Not about the Columbus Blue Jackets this time, but about the NHL playoffs as a whole. So let's get right into it, right? I've seen a lot of people being like, well, since the Blue Jackets aren't in the playoffs, I'm cheering for XYZ team. And that's fine. I respect it. The longer I am in this sport, the more I'm like, no, I hate every team that's not mine. So I was going to do here is who I'm cheering for in the playoffs. And then I was like, but who am I cheering for in the playoffs? And I realized that it's not, for example, that I want Philadelphia to win this series against the Penguins. It is that I want the Penguins to lose, right? And so I thought it would be fun, just as a bonus episode, to do a whole haters guide to the playoffs of this is why we don't want this team to win. I say we. This is why I don't want this team to win. And so I have done my bracket based entirely on who I hate the least out of each team, and also kind of what I think is funny also. So again, we'll get into it, but it's not that I want the Kings to win their series. I think it's that I think it's going to be incredibly funny if the Colorado Avalanche lose theirs. There is also some haters reasons that I'll get into then, but this is a combination of being a hater, a little bit of chaos, and also just kind of what I think is fun, right? So let's dive into it. Let's start with the East. Let's start with the Metro matchup, which is Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. This is the obvious one, right? Again, it's not necessarily that I want the Flyers to win. It's that we really, really, really want the Penguins to lose. Preferably embarrassingly, but I will take a loss of any kind. They got a great start yesterday, losing in the opening game. I do think that the Penguins probably still win this series, right? A game one loss isn't anything. If they show up on Monday and tie the series, then it's going to be a whole different ball game. I don't remember what the odds are for if a team goes up 2-0 in a series, their odds of winning, but it's pretty high. So, especially if it's the road team. So, again, obviously, we're keeping our fingers crossed for the Flyers to show up again on Monday. But yeah, again, it's super is not about the Flyers winning, because obviously the Flyers took the Blue Jackets playoff spot, and so we hate them for that. It is that we hate Pittsburgh more. That's all this is, right? Again, hater, being a hater. And maybe that's petty of me. Maybe that's me coping because my team isn't in the playoffs, whatever. But we're picking the Flyers to win this series based entirely on hater reasons and not logic. There's no logic in this episode. If you're coming here and you're going to be like, well, this is stupid, there's no way that Team X makes the Stanley Cup final or wins the cup or whatever. I'm like, no, I don't think that that's what's going to happen. I think this is what I want to happen, right? So let's move on. So Carolina-Ottawa is on the surface not really a matchup that I have a lot of stake in, right? I feel fine about the existence of Carolina. I feel ambivalent about the existence of Ottawa. I don't really think about them a lot when the Blue Jackets aren't playing them. However, and this is very important, this is where it gets weirdly specific to me, is that I'm really, really committed to the Canadian Cup drought. The Canadian teams haven't won since I was, I think, literally 6 months old, six or 18 months old. I don't remember where, off the top of my head. It was the 1993 team, I believe, the Canadians that won the cup. So it would have been when I was 18 months old or so. But I'm just going to double check that. Yeah, the Habs won in 1993, so I would have been 18 months old. That's the last time a Canadian team has won, and I think that's, again, really, really funny. So, unfortunately, and this is spoilers for the rest of how this bracket is going, I'm never going to root for a Canadian team. The only time I will be forced to root for a Canadian team in this bracket is if two Canadian teams play each other. But great news, they don't do that in the first round. So all of the Canadian teams are eliminated, some of them for more prejudice reasons than others. But the reason for eliminating Ottawa is simply I don't want a Canadian team to win the cup because, again, I think it's funny. And I think that the longer the drought goes on, the more insane Canada gets about it. And I also think that's funny. It's kind of on theme with, I didn't really have a horse in the Olympics race, but I did think it was very funny that Canada lost in the gold medal game. So sorry to Ottawa. I have no real strong feelings for or against you as a team. You just happen to be in Canada. And I think it's funny that Canadian teams can't win the cup anymore. So again, this is not me thinking that Carolina should win. I think Carolina probably will win. I think this is one of the rare cases where I've picked the more likely team to win the series. But Carolina over Ottawa, just because Canadian team bias. Sorry about it, Ottawa. Moving on, the Tampa Bay Lightning Montreal Canadiens series is, again, it's a real on the surface. I'm like, I don't really want either of these teams to win. But unfortunately, Montreal has the double whammy of being in Canada and also being one of the fan bases that has sent me multiple jokes about Johnny Gaudreau dying. And so that fan base is dead to me. And unfortunately, to my wonderful, wonderful friends who are Habs fans, I can't in good conscience root for your team to have any kind of success whatsoever. So, again, am I being a hater? Am I being unfair by tarring the entire fan base with by a handful of people? Sure, probably. But just, again, that double whammy of Canadian teams don't get the cup, and also this fan base has been personally unpleasant to me and also many other Blue Jackets fans. So I would say sorry, Montreal, but I'm not actually that sorry. You are eliminated. I don't know how this series is actually going to go. It really could go either way. This is one of the more well-matched series in the playoffs. There's a couple of them where I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't know which way this is going to go. The other Atlantic series is like that. The Dallas-Minnesota series is like that. So gun to my head, I'd probably give Tampa the advantage. They have the advantage in goal. And I think they are slightly more, they're deeper than Montreal, I feel like. And also they have Nikita Kucherov, who is, just kind of a cheat code. I understand that the Habs have their own cheat codes as well, but I think betting against the combination of Vasilevsky and Kucherov is, it's not something I would do. Again, we've seen it before. Like, I don't believe Tampa's won in the first round since their last cup. I might be wrong about that, but I would take Tampa over Montreal, both like emotionally and also, again, like gun to my head, right? This is a knee-jerk thing. If Montreal wins, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think if I had to give the edge to a team, I would give it to Tampa Bay, both in terms of like being a hater and also being realistic. Buffalo Boston is another one of these series where I'm like, Buffalo is on a heater and has been since December, give or take, which feels still weird. It's still weird that Buffalo's in the playoffs. I kind of love it though. And so this is one of those rare occasions where I'm like, actually, I do kind of want Buffalo to win. It's not necessarily that I want Boston to lose, although I do love it when Boston loses. But I think it would be fun if the Sabres had a deep run to go from 13 years of no playoffs to immediately making it to I think I have them reaching all the way to the final if my notes are right. I think that would be funny and fun, and I think Sabres fans deserve it for putting up with the last 13 years, and I can only hope that they will feel the same way about the Blue Jackets if and when the Blue Jackets make it back to the playoffs. So the rare case of me not being a hater is where this goes. I am still kind of being a hater because screw Boston. If the Blue Jackets had managed to figure out how to beat Boston this series, then they'd probably be in the playoff this season, but they'd probably be in the playoff. But you could say that about a lot of the teams on this list, right? Do I hate Boston? Not really. I just want them to win less than I would like the Sabres to win. So that's the East. So I have Philadelphia, Carolina, Tampa Bay, and Buffalo coming out of it. One underdog, three not underdogs. two not underdogs and 1/2, I would say. I don't know that anyone in that Tampa Bay Montreal series is an underdog, despite how Montreal is playing it. The West is where it gets really easy because the West has a bunch of teams that I hate in it. Some for genuine reasons and some for just like unrealistic. Like, I have no reason to hate the Dallas Stars. I just do. And I feel like everyone has that one team that they have no reason for hating. Like, they just super do, right? Maybe that's me. But the West is very much like, oh, here's two teams I'm kind of fond of, two teams I don't really care about, and then a bunch of teams that I hate. So Vegas, Utah is, again, not a case necessarily of Utah winning. I just really want Vegas to lose because we don't want Vegas to have nice things ever. I feel like that's one of the more universal opinions. You know, they just won a cup recently. They got handed a much better expansion draft rule set than the Blue Jackets did. And there's not really anyone on their team that I care for. You know, they've got William Karlsson, who I'm still kind of residually fond of, but like, I don't really care about Vegas. I want Vegas to lose. I think it's fun if Vegas loses. I think it's funny if Vegas loses. So like, again, not that I want Utah to win. I just want Vegas to lose. Similarly, if Anaheim was playing basically any other team, I'd probably be rooting for Anaheim to lose. But because they're playing the Oilers, and as we all know, Canadian teams automatically eliminated by dint of the Canadian Cup drought being funny, I also think it's funny that they have probably, arguably two of the top 5 forwards in the NHL. You could argue that they have 2 of the top 5 players in the NHL, and they still can't win a cup. So again, this is sort of about being a hater, I think, and sort of just about really enjoying when other teams suffer, which I guess is kind of me being a hater. But I think it's funny when Edmonton does badly, and I think it would be funny if they got eliminated in the first round. So again, not that I want Anaheim to win. I just want Edmonton to lose for a variety of reasons, mostly because of the Canadian Cup drought. Though that was a big driving force in the first round matchups that I put together here. The next series is, again, this one is actually a combination of, I think it will be funny and also a dislike for this team. And I think it would be really, really funny if the LA Kings beat the Colorado Avalanche. You know, we saw it with Tampa Columbus back in 2019. We saw it with the Bruins and the Leafs in, I want to say 2022, when the Bruins had that record setting, like they broke Tampa Bay's historic season from a couple of years previous, the one that the team that the Blue Jackets swept, and they got beaten in the first round by the Leafs. Cinema, hilarious. I think it'd be really, really funny if that happened again, especially because the Kings kind of backed their way into the playoffs. They've got like 22 regulation wins or something insane like that, and approximately 1 million overtime losses. Obviously, Colorado is the team to beat. Everyone has them picked as their cup champions, and I think it would be really, really funny. Also, I'm still bitter that they took Gavin Brindley away from us. Yes, I love that we got Charlie Coyle in that trade. I'm still mad that Gavin Brindley is in Colorado and not in Columbus. So sorry to Colorado, but you can't have nice things because you took a player that I liked away, which is probably one of the more irrational hater reasons being on this list. Like, a normal, well-adjusted person would be like, oh, I'm really happy for Gavin. I hope he does well in Colorado and wins a cup there. Nope. Mad at Colorado. They can't have nice things. Sorry to Gavin Brindley for being the collateral damage in this scenario. Dallas, Minnesota is the last matchup of the first round. And again, this one is, again, a rare combination of I really, really hate Dallas for reasons I don't know. And this comes up every time the Blue Jackets play Dallas, is I really, really don't like this team. I don't like anyone on their team. Again, no reason, just do. And also, I would kind of like it if Minnesota did the thing. They've got Nick Foligno on their team, which is a big plus for me. I would like it if Nick Foligno got a cup. I have many wonderful friends who are Minnesota Wild fans, and they're kind of our expansion buddies, right? Like our more successful twin brother, I guess, which normally would be a really good reason to be a hater, but unfortunately, I hate Dallas more than I hate the concept of being little brothered by the Minnesota Wild. So sorry to Dallas, but you are out. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll get into the second round matchups and how I feel about those going forward. That's coming up in just a second on this Haters special edition of Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I'm going to tell you about FanDuel. The playoffs are here. Every possession matters. Every matchup is magnified, and every game can swing a series. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a great way to get in on the action. You can bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. And the app makes it super easy to follow the action. They've got player stats, trends, and matchups all in one place. So you don't have to have like 7 different windows open trying to track things. And during the playoffs, that extra insight really matters when you're looking at role players, key moments, even stars, right? Makes the entire playoff experience more engaging from start to finish. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Once again, if you're new, bet $5 and get $250 in bonus bets. If that first bet wins, just find the heaviest favorite you can and put $5 on it. And you could get $250 in bonus bets to spend on whatever you want. Once again, go to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. If you haven't already, check out the Everydayers Club, lockedonbluejackets.supercast.com, or the link in the show notes below. For just $5 a month, you're going to get ad-free episodes of this show, which I think is a pretty good deal. And on top of that, you get some other fun perks as well, like access to an exclusive merch store, access to our exclusive Discord, where we are haters together, all of that fun stuff. Let's get into the second round. So our second round matchup, we've got Philadelphia playing Carolina. We have got Tampa Bay playing Buffalo. We've got Utah playing Anaheim. We've got the Kings playing Minnesota. This is probably pretty... This is not what the bracket is going to look like. Again, like, I don't think LA is going to be Colorado. I don't think Utah is going to be Vegas. But, hey, this is a bracket born of hate and not of realism. So let's get into the Eastern matchups. Philadelphia, Carolina. This was a weird one because, again, I don't hate either team necessarily. I feel very little about either team, if I'm being honest. But I thought about picking Carolina because of the spite for Philadelphia taking Columbus's playoff spot. But I find Carolina's play style just so infuriating of the, like, Corsi spamming of low danger shots to basically club you to death with, that I think I have to pick Philadelphia because they play a very flawed style of hockey, but it is, again, watching the game last night, it is at least a fun style of hockey, right? It's very, we may win, but I may die. And also, when in doubt, underdog, right? So Carolina is the favorite to come out of the East, I feel like. So we are picking Philadelphia. Because the Carolina play style is really just so objectionable to me. Thank you for your service, Carolina, in eliminating Ottawa, but your journey stops here. The other matchup in the East is Tampa Bay, Buffalo. And again, this is a weird one. It's not so much a hater as much as going back to, I think it would be fun if Buffalo won. Tampa Bay, you've had your time. Like, I need Tampa Bay to start falling off because I feel like basically since 2022, we've been like, well, next year they're probably going to take a step back. All of their stars are on the wrong side of 30, I feel like, or getting there very fast. They have to slow down soon, right? And we thought maybe this season they had a slow start, obviously. They lost like 2 of their first 10 games or something like that and didn't look very good doing it. And then obviously have returned to form as the Tampa Bay that we all know and love/hate. It's time for Tampa Bay to step back. It's time for somebody else to get a chance. So, again, thank you for your service in taking Montreal down, but we want Tampa Bay to lose more than we want Buffalo to lose. So, that's my Eastern Conference final matchup is the Flyers versus the Sabres, which is a truly stupid matchup that would get me laughed out of every bracket, every serious bracket, let's say. But here we are. Over in the West, we've got Utah, Anaheim. Again, it's not that I want Utah to win. I just would like the Ducks to lose. For, again, no real reason. I just find them kind of an irritating team. And I also, they belong to that set of teams that again, I don't want anything to come from the Pacific. No Pacific teams. They don't deserve to be here. Utah finished where did Utah actually finish? Because there was a real chance that Utah, as the fourth team in the Central, was going to finish with a better record than all three teams that made the Pacific. Utah finished with a 92 points in the end, so fewer points than Vegas and Edmonton, just same amount of points as the Ducks. But there was a real chance for a second there that they were going to finish above the Pacific champions in the standings, but have to go through the Pacific without home ice advantage. So obviously that didn't happen, but sorry to the Pacific Division, but I simply don't think that you should be here. I will say that the Ducks are actually the only Pacific team that comes in with more wins than losses, which is insane. The Vegas Golden Knights had 39 wins and I think 43 losses. The Oilers had 41 and 41. The Ducks had 43 wins and 39 losses, and then the Kings had 35 wins and 47 losses, which is insane for a playoff team. The Blue Jackets did not finish the season above 500 in terms of just pure wins and losses, but I think is it too much to ask that a playoff team has at least 41 wins? Apparently. So goodbye to the Pacific Division as a whole. Again, I feel fine about the Mammoth. They are one of the teams that I hate the least in the West. But again, they mostly get to advance by dint of playing the Anaheim Ducks, who I dislike and also think the Pacific should be eliminated from the playoffs as quickly as possible. Similarly, the Kings, Minnesota, I have residual fondness for the Kings. I briefly covered the Ontario Reign, their AHL affiliate, for a couple of years for a couple of AHL sites that I was working for. So I am kind of residually fond of a couple of their younger players. But unfortunately, Pacific Division means they don't deserve nice things. And we're right back to the rare case of actually I would like this team to win because I would like Minnesota to go far and get potentially a Stanley Cup for Nick Foligno, who is an old man without a cup and who deserves one, I think. So sorry to the Kings, you are eliminated. The West Conference Final is the Mammoth versus the Wild. Goodbye to the Pacific Division, finally. So conference finals, you've got Philadelphia, Buffalo, and then you've got Utah, Minnesota. Again, extremely unlikely. I think the only team that is likely to be there is probably Minnesota. If Minnesota, well, it depends. If Minnesota can make it out past Dallas, Minnesota, Colorado will be an interesting series, I think. But in this world, Colorado has already been eliminated, so they don't have to worry about that. But Minnesota, I think, is a Western Conference caliber team. Buffalo, again, if Buffalo can make it through Boston, I feel fine about their chances against Tampa. But it's if they can make it through Boston. The Atlantic is, I think the Atlantic is the most interesting division to me because I feel like all four of the teams are in that group are super close, right? I don't feel like there's a ton of difference between Buffalo and Boston, who is the first seed, and the Metros, the wild card seed, respectively. Obviously, Ottawa is there as well, but they're going through the Metro side because they play Carolina in the first round. So if Ottawa wins, they'll advance to the winner of Philadelphia-Pittsburgh. But that four-team grouping of what we're calling, quote-unquote, the Atlantic Division in the playoffs, I think is really, really close. So any of those four teams, I think, could probably be an Eastern Conference final potential. Who's going to win, though? Again, through great flip-flopping, I eventually decided to eliminate Philadelphia because Metropolitan rival, they took the Blue Jackets playoff spot. That's finally become relevant here. And again, we go back to, I think it would be fun if if Buffalo made the Stanley Cup final for a couple of reasons. One, because again, going back to their fan base that deserves it, and hopefully they will extend the same kindness to Blue Jackets fans when we're in that position. And also, I think Buffalo doing better than the Leafs for the first time in this salary cap era would cause untold psychic damage to every Leafs fan in the world. And I think, again, that would be funny. So sorry to Philadelphia, you have been eliminated. Maybe try not stealing the Blue Jackets playoff spot with 2 games to go next season. consider it. I know that the Blue Jackets are to blame here. The Flyers are not to blame for taking the Blue Jackets playoff spot. However, I'm being a hater. So let me be a hater. Utah, Minnesota is the Western matchup. Again, this is not really a case of I hate Utah. I just dislike them more than Minnesota, by which I mean I like Minnesota and feel nothing for the Utah Mammoth. They've got some fun players, but they kind of got this far by dint of it sucks that your team got taken away, Arizona. But it would be really funny if they played their second ever season in Utah and did well. Again, just kind of I think it would be funny. That's the only real reason. But again, we come back to we want Minnesota in the final because we want Nick Foligno to have nice things. I think Minnesota's going to get this far? Maybe. Probably not. But if they do, it's Nick Foligno. So that's the haters Stanley Cup matchup is Buffalo, Minnesota. Which is, if you told me that at the beginning of the season, a truly insane Stanley Cup matchup, right? It just is. Again, I flip-flopped about this a lot, but I think it goes back to not necessarily being a hater, but I think that the Buffalo vibes can only take you so far. They are an Eastern rival, if not a division rival, so that marks them down. And they very recently beat the Blue Jackets when the Blue Jackets really needed a win. So again, that is a mark against them. If the Blue Jackets had won that game, they probably still don't make the playoffs, but the Blue Jackets needed those 2 points, and I am mad that they didn't get them. So sorry to Buffalo, but I guess Minnesota wins the haters edition of this Stanley Cup playoffs. Again, it's ironic to me that I did this whole haters bracket, and then it really comes down to, no, I like this team and would like the players on this team to have success, right? But unfortunately, that's where we are, because by dint of eliminating all of the teams that I hate, eventually I'm left with 2 teams that I don't hate. Like a Minnesota versus basically anyone in the East, I think, would be a Minnesota choice, because I dislike everyone in the East more than I dislike Minnesota. Like, it's Minnesota over Philadelphia. It's obviously Minnesota over Pittsburgh, Minnesota over Carolina, over Ottawa, Tampa Bay, Montreal, Buffalo, Boston. Like, I like Minnesota, but more than I like all of those teams. So here we are. Maybe that's anticlimactic to finish the haters guide to the playoffs with, actually, I like this team a lot and think that they should have nice things. I didn't mean for that to happen, but in hindsight, it does kind of make sense that the more you eliminate the teams that you hate, eventually you are just left with teams that you don't hate, unfortunately. So finishing off strong in my haters guide, but screw you, Buffalo. I hope you lose embarrassingly in the Stanley Cup final. Is that being enough of a hater? Who can say? Tomorrow, we're going to get back to our regularly scheduled, quote-unquote, serious content. I'm going to start on the kind of Blue Jackets post-mortem now that it's been a few days. The dust has settled from the end of the season, the exit interviews, the bonus extension, etc. So tomorrow, I want to start positive, and then we'll do the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So tomorrow, what I want to talk about is the good things that came from this season, right? And I know that everyone, myself included, is still kind of frustrated and angry and sad about how the season ended. And, I think it was a disappointing season by a lot of metrics, but I think there were some bright spots in there, right? Like, there were things to be excited about for the future. Not as many as I was hoping. I think a lot of the players that we hoped would take steps forward didn't take as big of a step as we thought, or in some cases took steps back. But there are some players, Jet Greaves, for example, who will feature heavily in tomorrow's episode, that took steps forward in a really, really exciting way. So that's going to be tomorrow. We'll talk about the good of the season, and then Tuesday we'll do the bad, and then Wednesday we'll do the ugly, and then after that we'll dive in deeper to, I want to do things like why the special teams were so bad, and was the 5-on-5 actually good, or were they just lucky at points and unlucky at others? So that's going to be like the vague plan for next week, is a full season post-mortem, and then the week after that we'll see, maybe there'll be some exciting breaking news, new contracts or something to talk about. But tomorrow we'll talk about the good from the Blue Jackets season. As few and far between as those sparks were, I do think the sparks that were there were exceptionally bright. So that's going to be tomorrow. Thank you for listening to this episode, even if it is very stupid. If you haven't already, check out the Everydayers Club. Go to lockedonbluejackets.supercast.com or click the link in the show notes to learn more. Get ad-free episodes of this show for just $5 a month, which I think is a pretty good deal. If you have ad fatigue, like I know a lot of people do, you can find the show wherever you get podcasts. We are on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're on Stitcher, we're on Podbean, we're on Odyssey, everywhere. You can also find us over on YouTube if you haven't already. And you can also find the show at LO_Blue on Twitter. We're also over on TikTok. We are soon to be back on Instagram once I figure out how to get back into the account. But summer of social media, that's what we're doing. We are doing self-promotion this summer. And so if you want to follow on those social medias, then please feel free to go ahead. Thank you once again for listening to this episode. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.